Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing today? Welcome to the Base live stream that I do about once a month. Usually it's on the first Thursday of the month, unless I have a show or just some other thing I can't get out of to not do this. Melanie is joining us on the live stream, it looks like, although she's about to disappear. Oh, there she goes. But today I thought it might be kind of fun to go through learning songs and how I kind of work on songs that are maybe a bit more challenging or something if I'm just randomly given them, and what I might do if I have to play something that has a challenging part in too short of an amount of time for me to learn it correctly and fully, versus what I would do if I had a lot of time to learn it, how I would break it down and try to learn it quicker. So I'm going to wait a little while for a few people to come on. And then what I want is for you guys to suggest some baselines for me to learn. And I'll try to be honest with you about if I already know it or not. I'll let you guys know if I know it already, and or if I have some familiarity with it, because sometimes that happens where I have to learn a song and I've at least heard it several times and maybe dabbled with it on the bass. But then other times things are brand new to me, and so it's just a matter of what I would do if I had to play it the same day versus if I had to play it a month from now. So I'll give you guys some time to just kind of join on and everything, and I'll just play a little bit while this stream just kind of takes place. So maybe I'll warm up a little bit. Earlier in lessons, I was talking about different warm-up exercises, and somebody was talking about the spider. And I apparently had the wrong idea of which exercise that was. I think it's that. But anyway, it's one of those permutation exercises. Maybe it was that. And basically you do it one way and then kind of flip it the other way around. But I'm not sure if anybody, oh, it looks like somebody is here. So once again, I'll just recap. Basically, I'm going to be learning songs, playing songs that I haven't done before, and trying to decide how I'd approach it if it was a short term, being able to play it the same day, or if it was like a month out or something that I had to play it. So if you like videos like these, just stay on board. We'll kind of go through that. I may just have to pick a song. I'm trying to think of one that maybe I just want to learn, or maybe I can do some sort of random thing to figure out the first song, because it seems like I'm just going to be waiting a little bit on people to join. If you are here and it's not showing that to me, then I apologize if you're just being patient with me. But just stick around. What I'm kind of planning on doing is just picking a song right now. But if you have one that you think it would be cool for me to try to learn the bass line or try to demonstrate it for you guys, let me know as well. And they can be challenging lines or simple lines, but I'm just curious if you guys will come up with. So I'm going to use Spotify to pull songs up, and I might look for tablature and things like that, depending on how hard the song is, how simple or not it is. So while I'm waiting for it to load, because apparently my phone is taking forever to load. I'll just play through some stuff. Hey Seth, how's it going? All right. So basically, the plan is just if you want to give me a song that you would like to see me attempt to learn. So what do I consider a challenging bass part? So, sometimes it'd be stuff that's kind of rhythmic. So if it's, for instance, like a Motown line that I hadn't learned before, might be kind of like rhythmic and kind of challenging. It could be something like, like what I was just doing with like Teen Town or something. So I really want to get various levels of challenging. So I'd give you an idea of what I would do. There are certain ones like something like Teen Town. If I had to play that at the end of a day, I probably just wouldn't do it. I'd probably just be honest with people and be like, hey, I'm going to need to spend more time on this to be able to play it effectively. By the way, let me know how the audio is on this one. Just making sure everything's okay. Are the levels good? Is everything working out? Can you hear me okay? Do I need to turn it up, down, or whatever? Audio sounds good. All right, thank you, Seth. Appreciate that. So basically just stuff that's kind of new to me. Oh, thank you, Karen. Good to see you there too. Thanks. So if there's a bass line that you guys just want to learn, it could be like that. And if it's one that I don't know, then I'll let you know and I'll demonstrate how I would go about learning it. If it's one I do know, I can probably just let you know how I went about learning it. So I'm basically just waiting for requests from you guys. I can just tell you, I guess while I'm waiting for you guys to think of some things. Some Kind of Wonderful and the Grand Funk Railroad version. Okay, I've I have played that song before. I'm not sure that I've ever played the bass line correctly. So I will go and listen to that and see. A lot of times I may have learned that one kind of on stage with people. So instead of like playing their line, kind of coming up with a line, it was probably a simple one. But that's a great one. Let's look it up. So Some Kind of Wonderful. But I have played that song before, so I'm just gonna let you know. One of the things that I do if I have to play something on the spot and I haven't heard it before, a lot of times I'll look to what the guitar player is doing, or if it's a piano player, and listen for what they're doing. Ask them for the key, maybe before the song starts, would be a good idea. That kind of thing. And if they'll tell me the chords, great. If not, then what I'll do is I'll just try to use my ear. So ear training kind of helps with that. So Some Kind of Wonderful. I know it has a lot of staying on a couple of chords. Um, I want to say it's the one chord and the four chord. And so you could just drive roots all the way through, and that kind of works. Just whatever fits with basically the chordal information the guitar player is giving you and the rhythmic information the drummer is giving you. It may not be right, but it'll work and it'll help the song not crash and burn, even if you aren't playing what was on the recording. But it does take time to develop your ear like that. So if you haven't, it might be good to just look up sheet music for it or look up the chords. And then if you know a few of the notes on the bass, if you know how to find an F, you know how to find a G, and you know how to find the other notes around that, even if you don't have them memorized, you can do that. I want to say Some Kind of Wonderful is in G, but let's listen to it and find out. Or I'll listen to it and we'll find out. Okay, it's D. So far, one note, just driving. That's why I thought it was in G. G is the next note. And okay, so what I'm noticing there, I'm just going to pause it real quick, although it's not pausing. Weird. Okay, so what I'm noticing about that is the important part of the groove is really just playing the same note over and over again with kind of a swung rhythm. So I'm noticing right away he's going bum ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum, right? So it's long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. And then I was listening for walk-ups. Did he walk into the four chord? Did he walk back into the one? He didn't really walk in. He kind of just went when he came back to the one chord, which is that D note. And if you don't know what I mean by the one chord, it's kind of coming from scales, basically. So if you're not kind of at that point yet, that's fine, but I'll try to demonstrate it just very quickly, just for those that already know a major scale. So if you know a major scale, then if you can figure out that a song is in that key, which that's kind of hard to explain how to do, but it basically just feels like it's the center of the piece. Everything is centered around this one note. So in this case, he's starting with D and is very obviously coming back to D and doing some other things. So D is our key. And I'm just kind of assuming, and really I already know this about this song, that it would be D major and not minor. So if you were to play the major scale, you could give each one of those notes a number in order. So these are not fret numbers. These are just numbers that they would appear in the scale. First note, second note, third note, so forth would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you could call this 8 or 1 because it's the same note letter-wise. So D is our 1. And then when we go to G, if we go up to our scale, D, E, F sharp, G, G would be our 4th note in the D major scale. So I'm saying I'm going to the 4 chord. Basically, there's a guitar player or a piano player or someone playing a chord that matches that note usually in a song. So so that means I would just be moving to the 4 chord where everything's kind of centered around the 4 temporarily, or the G note in this case. That may be confusing. I have other videos on this. They're in that beginner playlist. And at some point, I'll get to those in the course where it'll cover that as well. Although it might be further on down. Okay. So we've got that. So this is a rather simple line. This one's not a complex one. So let's see what we got. Let me rewind a little bit. I'm waiting for it to rewind, so I'll play along with it. Well, it's on the chorus, even though it's not letting me rewind. And what I noticed about the chorus was there's like little walk-ups going. The other thing I noticed is he's kind of getting to the G before it sounds like it's ready to be there. So he's kind of anticipating the beat a little bit on purpose, just to kind of push the song forward. So instead of changing on beat 1 in the chorus, sometimes he's changing on the and after beat 4, just to kind of push into the next downbeat. So maybe I can count that to demonstrate that. Let's see. Okay, so there was a walk up. So I know it was some sort of walk up. I kind of just assumed it was chromatic. You could do one where you're walking the scale. And it's like, oh, that doesn't really sound right. So I think it was just those notes right in a row. Chromatic means we're not skipping over any frets as we go in. So literally, I knew I was going to an A chord next because that's where they ended up. So the walk up ends on the A chord. And I think they were just going fret wise into it. So I'm just going to go backwards from that enough to get there. So usually it's kind of like you'll jump to a note that's within the chord. So if we're playing like a D chord, or a D arpeggio rather, those are the notes that a guitar player would be like playing at the same time. You just play them separate. F sharp is the next note in a D chord. It's called the 3rd of the chord, or it's the 3rd of the scale. So I'm jumping down to the 3rd, and that's what it sounded like it was doing. So basically, these are just patterns that I'm used to hearing in there. So I'm like, okay, I recognize that, and there's a walk up into the 5, and that one sounds important because it drives the music forward. So with this song, I would probably make note of all the walk ups that happen. I know when I play it live, you just kind of feel like there should be a walk up there. If that makes any sense, after playing for a while, you'll just have musical intuition of, I think there should be a walk up there. And if you go and you listen to the original, you'd be like, okay, so did that bass player. Or maybe they put it in a different spot and made it a little more interesting. But there are some that just feel like they need to be there. And that was one of them. So. Okay, so that was another walk up on the "Don't You Know That She's" on that part. Don't you know? So that was like he went from the A chord to the G chord, and then he walked back up. And he was hitting each note 2 times, if that kind of helps. So that's kind of what I would do. I just literally go through and focus on one section of the song. So that's the verse of the song. So I go, okay, I'm just going to get the verse down first. So I hear these walk ups. I try to figure out if they're chromatic or scalar, and I go, okay, these were just chromatic. They aren't skipping over any notes, and these are just like tools in your toolbox, right? So if you're coming up with a bass line for a song you've never heard, it might just feel right to put one of those in there, and then you've got to kind of figure out what you're feeling is right. Does it feel like it's supposed to be a chromatic one, or does it feel like it's walking up the scale versus that kind of thing? So it's really just a matter of kind of playing through songs, listening to how different bass players approach things, seeing what different players do similarly and what they do differently, and then listening, just listening to the actual bass line and realizing, oh, there is a walk up there. Oh, there's not a walk up there. Maybe it's important to not do one here so that when we do get to this walk up, it really pushes into the next section of the song. So that's what they're doing. That walk back up to the one I want to say is going into the chorus. And yeah, it was. Let me rewind a little bit. It's not rewinding for some reason. So here we go, leading into it. Oh, it stopped. Here we go, that walk up. That's the chorus. Oh. Okay. So once he's in the chorus, he does that same walk up, except for he waits longer to do it. So instead of playing two notes, like going, he's going quicker and just waiting longer and then filling in the gap quicker to get back to the root note. So at first you might be like, well, how long do I stay on this note before going back to the original note? But honestly, it's kind of like you can do math. If you know there are supposed to be 8/8 notes in a measure, then you know that the last three are going to lead into the downbeat of the next measure, and it's a 3-note walk up. So that means you're going to play probably 5 of these. 1, 2. Okay, as it may be more than 5 because you're going to play a full measure and then 5 of the next measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. So some kind of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. No, I'm wrong. It's just 5 and then it goes back in. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So knowing how to count eighth notes kind of helps you come up with the bass lines here, and just figuring that out. You lead into that. You get the verse and the chorus down. Generally speaking, there may be a variation in the second verse. There's usually not. So a lot of times when I'm learning these songs, I just listen through the second verse and the second chorus to see, is there something out of the ordinary coming back in? Do they have an extra section thrown in that's instrumental or something? And once I know that, I can be like, it sounds like the same thing. It probably is the same thing. So now all of a sudden I might be a full minute into the song at that point without having to learn anything else. Although they might do a variation on the bass line, you just got to ask yourself, is it really important? Like if you have a lot of songs to learn for a gig, like I have a show tomorrow and the next day. And let's say there are a lot of songs for the show tomorrow. So I would just assume that the second verse is probably the same. Give it a listen to make sure it's not too drastically different, and then move on from there. Even if the walk-ups are in slightly different places, as long as they're outlining the same line. And then you fast forward a little bit to like the bridge. And I think in this one, the bridge is the "Can I get a witness?" Right? So, right. So it got done with the chorus. Back to the second verse. Nothing crazy there. We're at the second chorus. It's 1 minute and 46 seconds in. Oh, okay. Interesting. He did the slower walk up one of the times in the chorus. So first it was like, some kind of wonderful, some kind of wonderful. So he did the slow walk up the second time and the fast one the first time. I'm not sure if anyone in the band would notice that. It didn't seem like any other instruments were doing it with me. So worst case scenario, I played the fast one twice. I'm not going to get any weird looks from everybody, but if I have the time to get it completely right, then I might go through and really memorize that or make a note of some sort. Now we're at the second. After the second chorus, we're just hanging out on the D. Long, short, still swung notes. Oh, sorry, the first one's still on D. So in the chorus, it's going back and forth between a D and a B minor. We're just going to play the roots. He's kind of approaching them with like a note or with a slide or with something, maybe not a slide. Can I get a witness? Can I get a witness? He's doing little pickup notes into it. And those kind of push things forward a little bit, and they're kind of fun, and they add a little bit of pizzazz. But like I said, if you're learning the song quickly, you just leave little details like that out and just move forward. So I'm pretty sure at this point that those are the only three sections of the song. Obviously, I'd try to figure out how to end the song. If it fades out, you just have to watch the band you're playing it with for the ending, and that's all you can do. So you had While My Guitar Gently Weeps. That's another one that I know as well. I don't know that I play it exactly right, but I do know the general chord progression of the guitar part. I've played that one. I sing and play it on guitar sometimes. I do probably a simplified version of the guitar part. I'm not doing, there's multiple things going on at the beginning, and I'm not able to do all of that if I'm playing it solo. So when I played it with bands, I want to say that the bass line has a lot of the boom, 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 just kind of like root notes of the chords. But I'm not sure if in the chorus if it has more than that. So we'll move on to that song now. And by the way, guys, if you have a or just anybody that's online, if you have any requests for songs that you want me to try to learn on here, I can talk through kind of what I'm doing to learn songs. So go ahead and leave a comment if you want to with a song that we can work on next. So right now I'm just kind of going down the ones that are here because I haven't heard anybody else suggest one. But if you guys want to, I'm just going to cover this one pretty quickly, and then we'll move on to another one. I want to say that While My Guitar Gently Weeps starts on A minor, and it just kind of walks down the scale. So what I always play for is just like the whole A. Sorry, I'm not humming an A, G, G, F sharp, F. Let's see. Yeah, so if I was just doing the root notes, I'd probably hit two of them on each one because that's kind of the groove I remember the drums giving me. I could be wrong. There might be more to the bass line than that, but my memory is telling me that that's kind of what's going on there. So I'll give it a listen. And oh, a lot of times if you don't know what the bass line is doing, but the drummer knows the drum part, if you listen to what the bass drum is doing, sometimes that will give you the rhythm, and then you can listen to the guitar parts or the keyboard parts or whatever for the chordal information, so you know which seem to be playing. So kind of knowing what to listen for there helps a little bit. If you don't, that's fine. You got to kind of work up to those skills. I'm wrong. It's just holding the root note out at the beginning. That's where it starts doing it. Yeah, just roots. Okay, so there's a little bit of a There's a little walk in there that I'd never heard before. I'm not sure if it was the guitar and the bass or just one or the other that was doing it. I'd have to go back and listen to it a little bit more. But yeah, so that's kind of interesting. So there are little walks in there. But honestly, you could, if you're trying to learn something like this quickly and you don't have as much of an ear for it, you could look up the chords. Ultimate Guitar sometimes will have chord charts for things like this. Sometimes they're not 100% accurate, but they're a good place to start if you have no clue of what to do and your ear doesn't know how to find the right notes yet. If you're not that far on your path, then you can just kind of search for it. Usually they'll put where the chords change above the word they change on. And so then it's a matter of just kind of listening to the song for the basic rhythm of the bass line. So here we can hear that boom, 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 boom. Once the verse kicks in, and we can hear at the very intro that it's simpler than that it's only hitting single notes. So there's a lot of things like that. I see Seth has some things. Let's see. So the hardest bass line. So the main one was the Ian during the Blockheads, Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick. I feel like you've mentioned that one to me before, and I feel like there was a magazine article on it at some point where someone was talking about that song with the bass player that played it. Probably they may have interviewed him, but I can't remember exactly where. But in one of those bass magazines, I probably have the line written out kind of like that. So a funky version of it. That's kind of cool. Okay, but back to this. And While My Guitar Gently Weeps, if I just needed to play it and it's a normal gig, right? I don't need every single walk up that happens, every single this and the other. I just need to know how to outline the chords and the basic drum groove that I'll be locking in with. And most people don't learn the songs that much more in depth, especially if they have a short time frame to learn all these songs, or they'll drive themselves crazy. So you get a functional version of the song first, right? So that would be like, okay, I'm going to go to figure out what the chords are. And if I don't have time to figure them out, someone else probably already has. So you can look up the guitar chords and then you see this like, oh, it's A going down to G, and all this stuff. And then you listen to the song and you hear that boom, boom rhythm, boom, boom kind of thing going on. Then you know to lock in. Now, if you're playing live and the drummer gives you a different groove, listen to what their bass drum is doing and kind of lock those roots in with something that they're doing, because y'all might be playing a different version of the song, making it up as you go, but trying to force the original line when the other players aren't going to be playing it correctly may only make it sound weird. So it just depends on what kind of band you're playing with and how attention to detail they are versus more improvisation oriented, however you say that. But yeah, so here I'd probably look up the chords, and if you can't find them on something like Ultimate Guitar, or even if you are looking for them that way, I usually just go to Google, search the name of a song, and then search the word chords if it sounds like the bass line is essentially following the chords or following the guitar part. If the bass line has a specific if a bass line has a specific groove where you can tell, it's got some kind of, or like we can go back to the Beatles, then obviously just knowing that the chord is D isn't going to give you enough information. You need to kind of learn that bass. So in that case, I would probably look up information like tablature, which I think I'm going to be doing that as the next part of the course is going to be how to read tabs. I already have a video up for that. So if that's where you are, Karen, if that's what's going on for you for the next part, you may want to just look at the video that I already have up on how to read tabs. I believe it's on my beginner playlist. So if you look at my playlist and you look at UBass beginner playlist, I think is what I called it, that might give you an example of how to read tablature. It's got the sheet music and stuff on it too, but tabs are just the number that correlates to the fret number, and they write it on the string. So like if you have your 4 strings, there'll be 4 lines on the piece of paper, and it'll be the thickest one on the bottom. So it's almost like your bass is upside down on the piece of paper. And if there's a number on the bottom line, let's say it's a 6, that's telling you to play 6 on the E string. So 6th fret, not the other numbers I was talking about earlier, but the 6th fret on the E string. So that's what tablature is. So if you can look up tab, it'll tell you basically bass line. So in case y'all were going to throw me some weird stuff, I brought a Dream Theater book and a Motown book over here. The Motown book just has sheet music, so that doesn't work for tabs. But the Dream Theater book has tablature and the sheet music. And this is for 6-string bass, so it has 6 lines instead of 4 lines. So forgive me for using this as an example, but you can see it has lines, and then on the lines there are little numbers. It may be hard to read from here with the size of the font, but that is kind of what you do. So with really complicated songs where it's just like that would take me a long time to go through and pick every note out by ear and make sure I have it correctly, I might take a shortcut and find some tablature and then just try to listen closely to make sure that the person that wrote it out, because sometimes tabs on the internet can be wrong, because everyday people could be the people tabbing it out, and sometimes they just get things wrong. So you kind of can get an idea of the line from there, and then you just decide how detail oriented you want to be when you're doing that. Okay, so you feel more comfortable with tabs than sheet music. Is sheet music, basically the only downside to tabs is they don't give you the rhythm. They give you kind of an estimation of the rhythm sometimes, where they'll write a number and then they'll give you a space after it and then give you something else. But in general, you don't really have a lot of information about the rhythm. So that's the one downside, is that you're gonna have to use your ear listening to the song to get the rhythm. And if it's complicated or fast, it may be hard for you to figure that out. But that's a step or two down the road from just being able to do the tabs. So find tabs for simpler songs. Tabs for While My Guitar Gently Weeps might help. I'm not sure where my other bass book is. I think it's in the car. I have one that's like a phone book size thing, and it just has a bunch of the tabs and the notation for different songs that are pretty cool. So it just kind of does that. But anyway, that's what I would do with While My Guitar Gently Weeps. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Seth's to see what I would do for that. So I'm going to listen to it first, although I know I'm not going to be able to get all the information out of just listening to it, because I'm pretty sure I remember that line being pretty fancy. So that was Ian Dury. Okay, Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick. There it is. So I'm going to give it a listen first and just see where I would start this. So first I'd start by like humming it. So that's like a simplification of it, but I can tell that the first couple of notes are just outlining an octave. So now I just got to figure out what key we're in first. Sounds like F. So I hear the box shape thing going on. I hear it going from the root to the octave to the 7 to the 5. So I hear all those notes in there. I'm not sure how many times he's hitting each note at this point. And then I'm hearing that anticipation going into the downbeats on certain things, which the song is called Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick. So obviously they're going to do something interesting with the rhythm. That makes sense to me. Let's see. Okay. I'm not sure it stays on that note or goes, but then it goes back and forth between those two. So let me hear that. So first I would do this. And it does something else the second time. It's not quite right, but I'm in the ballpark. And I'm so it does go down there. So the cool thing about this one is I can tell that he's kind of staying mostly within this like minor pentatonic shape. He might be doing a little blues scale action. He might throw in a chromatic note there, but I can kind of hear this just from playing so many bass lines that do the same thing. I'm going to switch over to the other one because my B flat on this one buzzes. And since we're in the key of F, I'll be playing a lot of that note. So I think the E flat was buzzing too. So it may be a fret, it may be all across the bass issue and not just the one note. So I'm hearing him play mostly 16th notes, not really leaving a bunch of space between them. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so that's the first part. So now I feel more comfortable that that's probably the correct number of notes on each one after playing through it. Sometimes what I would do is I would take this on YouTube. So instead of having to like play through and guess as many times as I just did now, I would probably just down. If I wanted to bypass this and not be using my ear, a lot of times I like using my ear because it keeps me up to par on things rather than going online and looking up tabs right away. So if I have time, I do that. If I'm trying to learn it quickly, I might be like, okay, this is very specific, and I just visually seeing it would help me. So I would be able to do it much quicker that way, but I like the challenge of doing it this way. So sometimes my ego gets in the way of me learning songs faster. However, learning it this way can also get you to retain it better. Whereas if I read it on a piece of paper and I play through it, I may not remember it when it comes time to play it. Whereas if I have to practice it repetitively like this. Yeah, it's only so it does after that. So something like that. So I have the general gist of it. So what I would probably do at that point is probably just go, okay, I'm just gonna look up the tabs because this is taking me too much time or something, you know. But I like doing it by ear. So I heard that there's some hits on the 4 and the 5 coming up. So I'm just gonna try to play along with it and see what happens. Not very well. Okay, so then going into the chorus on those things. So that was just octaves. So I could very easily tell that if I wanted to imitate that, I can do octaves. But honestly, there's so many variations on this one, and rather than dumbing it down like this, you know, like just knowing that that's the basic groove. Or boom, boom. You know, just that thing, and then go knowing that it goes boom, 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 and then knowing that it hits that note going back into the main groove. It hits it a 16th note early, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, right? So I can hear those kinds of things because I'm comparing it to where the downbeat is, but my brain is kind of keeping a 16th note pulse while I'm listening to it. So it would take me a long time to do it this way. I could just look up tabs and just be like, oh, okay. And then as long as I can read the tabs quick enough, then I could do it easier that way. And that's probably what I would do there. So does anybody else have one that they would like to hear me do this with, or would you like me to continue going with this song? I know you mentioned Muse Hysteria, but I already know that one, so. So with that one, I would just go ahead and get sheet music. Why waste the time if someone else has already done that work for you? Because most of your work is going to just be the repetition of moving that kind of line up to speed. So the same thing with this song, right? If I could find it notated out, that would be better. Because like I said, it would have the rhythm written into, and this is a very rhythmic specific song. I mean, it's called Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick, right? So it's got rhythm in the title. For whatever reason, my phone is freezing up. So I probably won't be able to pull that up here. I guess I could pull it up on the computer. I'm just afraid it would slow it down. Sitting on the dock of the bay, Otis Redding. I know it. I don't think I've ever played the bass line like the recorded version. So I could listen to the recorded version and tell you what I would do there. But what I generally do for that song, just so you guys know, let me just So I just typed in rhythm stick bass line. A bunch of videos came up. I'd probably pull a video up if I were doing that. But right now, if I pull a video up, it'll probably kill the live stream. So I'm just going to look for, there's a site called Big Bass Tab came up, and Songster. I think I like Songster because you can play it back. Okay, let's see how far off I was. I don't know about that first note being there. I thought it was just a single note. Say it goes all the way up there. Right at the beginning? I don't know that I agree with that. Okay. So this may not be the best tab. This may be starting from a different part in the song or something. Just that first 16th note being there doesn't feel right to me. I feel like it's my brain can't wrap around. So boom, da 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 da, 1 and 10. So, yeah, I'm not hearing it off of the same beat, and they have the notes going really far up. So, for one, that 3 to 6 hammer on, it may be this a slide. I was just playing it the 6 here. I didn't hear these last 2 notes, so I'm going to listen closer and just see if they're actually there or not, because I just didn't hear those last 2. So it may be that my headphones aren't the greatest, but yeah, it's kind of interesting looking these up. So sometimes you got to listen to it and see if it's there. So Levon, that's awesome that you're on here. Primus, hit the Primus. Okay, which Primus song? I was listening to the one we were working on earlier, the whole. Oh, I can't do it here. I would have to have the full size bass to do that, because I run out of frets if I do that. I could do it down the octave, I guess. And then I guess I'd have to do the in the regular place, because there's not a lower octave to do that. And then was it I think there was a. I can't remember all of it, but I was listening to it a little bit earlier, and it was kind of fun. Some of the Primus that I know on the U-bass. That one's kind of fun because you got the slap here, so that's American Life. You probably know that. And and I'm not super clean on it. Like I said, I need to kind of go over these and kind of clean them up a little bit. But that one's kind of fun because you have this like slap. And I think he goes up first so that he keeps this groove on the right hand going. Boom, bum, 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 boom, bum, bum, bum. So his right hand part's really not that hard on this one. Slap, up strum, down strum, up strum. Boom, bum, 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 bum. And his other hand is going like, it's doing all these hammer-ons in between. And I know there's like, it does something where it goes up a fret. I'm just trying to remember where it goes. Can't remember. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on Seas of Cheese that are like that. I'm not sure that I have it completely right, but stuff like John the Fisherman, you might know for sure if I have it wrong, but. You know, all that stuff. So that's kind of fun. So that stuff's kind of tricky and kind of out there. Yeah, Karen, I don't want to scare you away. I know that's totally different way of playing the bass. It's very unorthodox. If you get hired to play bass, most of the time you won't be playing stuff like that. But if you are the band leader in a band and you're singing and you're playing, then you can kind of get away with stuff like that and make it however you want. And that's what Les Claypool does there. Very, very good bass player. But it's just kind of cool because you have some sort of rhythmic pattern that kind of keeps going, and then you fill in the gaps with hammer-ons and stuff, just extra movement on the left hand. So that's kind of a cool thing there. So Seth says something easy like sitting on the dock of the bay. When I do that one, I literally just follow the chords, right? So so like let's say you're playing a G chord, you move up to a B chord, so you're going to a C chord and then back down to that. I guess you're going back down to an A. They're all major in that song, so there aren't really any minor chords, so that makes it kind of easier to just kind of, you know, just follow the chords. When you listen to it, you hear it, there are some walk-ups. So when I usually play it, I have, you know, that kind of thing where I'm just following. And then I play this with so many different drummers that usually what I'm doing there, usually when I'm playing that, I have to lock in with what the drummer is giving me. So it's like if the drummer is giving me a boom, pop, boom, pop, boom, you know, kind of beat, I would go boom, 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 pop, boom, pop, boom, pop, boom, boom, pop, boom, pop. You know, you get the idea. But if they're going like boom, let's see, boom, pop, boom, pop, boom, pop, boom, pop, you know, then I might have that extra note ahead of it. Boom, pop, boom, pop, boom, boom. All right, Levon, thanks for hanging out for a minute. Appreciate that. So Levon's a new student of mine that started today. He actually started earlier today. And he's been taking from another bass teacher. And they've been working on some really, really hard music. And I just want to give him a lot of props for working on all these really cool songs. He was working on some Marcus Miller, some Jaco Pastorius, some Primus stuff, and then just several classic songs. And then there was a list that he was doing of those. So he's really doing a great job and really taking bass seriously, and he's got a lot of cool things going for him. So I'm glad he stopped by. But yeah, so Dock of the Bay. I'm gonna listen to the actual part just because sometimes I do that where I play a song a lot of times and I just kind of have never played it exactly right because the gig never needs you to, if that makes any sense. You have a little bit of a looseness with it. So it's really just more about locking in with who you're playing with. And everyone has a slightly different variation of it. Sometimes it's on purpose. Sometimes it's just the way they learned it. Because some people learn it from looking up the chord chart and then just kind of making it their own. And if you're playing with someone like that, you got to play it a little bit differently. If the guitar player strums it differently, then it might come out sounding different. So that's kind of a good thing to keep in mind, is depending on who you're playing with, it might work better to not learn the original. Like, learn the gist of it and then make sure to have an ear open on how you can make it fit what they're playing better. If the drummer's playing a different rhythm, for instance. Intro. All right. One thing I just learned, there's a lot of fifths in here. So far already I'm hearing it's not just the root like I was doing. It's actually root, fifth, root, fifth, and then that's all I'm at right now. I think there are some ghost notes in there too, but that's the main gist of it. It's the intro. So he's doing some like rhythmic things, but he's really just adding fifths into the bass line. I didn't know that. It kind of gives it more of a bounce than what I've been doing. So it's kind of good to know that bouncy feel might be helpful. And actually he didn't do that walk up. There were some lower notes in there, so it's something more like. You know, something to get back to the G. I'm not sure what it was exactly. So this is what I would do now, right? So I've been playing this song a certain way forever, and I had the walk-ups in there. The walk-ups are right. I had the intro, of course, that intro where he's just doing G and sliding into the fifth. Yeah, so that's cool. He might not be sliding. He might be hammer on. I like doing a slide. I think he's sliding though. It's a hammer on. There's a slide in there somewhere. Yeah, so he's filling in the gaps a little bit different than I would. So actually he did. He hit an E somewhere. It was interesting. Actually, it was boom, 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 boom. Something like that. So the verse is a little bit more bouncy. So that's something, if I were listening closer now, that maybe I wouldn't have caught when I learned the song, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't know. I'd be listening more for, okay, the feel is more bouncy than I gave it credit, than I thought it was earlier on. So that's the other thing. Sometimes people will do it with more of a ballad feel and they don't really want it to be that bouncy. So you kind of just got to go with the flow. Okay, and then he borrows from that intro. So at first he goes, sitting on the dock of the, something, but he goes to the upper E. Sometimes I like going down to the lower E, but that's not what he did originally. So let's see. Then he goes. So he doesn't do the walk downs in the chorus that a lot of people do. A lot of people go bum, 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 bum in the chorus, but it doesn't happen. It's more like, so he's sitting on the dock of the bay, right? So he's got those chromatics. And then he just kind of hangs on that note the first time. The second time, I think he plays. kind of hangs out on there. Then he plays more like the intro. And goes back to that first part. So the first thing that kind of works is knowing the skeleton of the song, knowing where the chords go, and see, because I already know that, going back to this and listening to what he's doing, I'm able to hear the details and focus on the details. So what I kind of recommend for most people is, especially if you don't have a lot of time to learn the song, come up with a functional version of the song, knowing what the roots are, knowing if there are walk-ups that really make it and make it interesting. A lot of times when I play this with other people, the guitar player is doing specific walk-ups too. So it makes sense to double them on the walk-ups and walk downs instead of doing the one that he did. Boom, 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 boom. It might make more sense to go boom, 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 boom. Because if I have both those at the same time, it might get a little muddy sounding. So the bass line is really cool. It's got a lot more of a bounce to it. But I think that's probably about all we need to know about that one. Is just it incorporates some things from the intro later on in the chorus. It goes back to that intro part later on, only it has an extra chord change thrown in. And it has a bouncy feel that uses the fifth, basically where the snare drum's hitting. So it's kind of like going to the fifth on beats 2 and sometimes beats 4. So it's outlining the drum groove a little bit. Boom, pop, boom, boom, pop. So the bass drum and snare will be going like boom, pop, boom, boom, pop, boom, pop, boom, boom, pop. You know, that kind of thing. So we're locking in with the drums there. Boom, pop, boom, 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 pop. Boom, pop, boom, boom, pop, boom, pop, boom. So a lot of times we're throwing the fifth on fifth of the chords on the beat 2 and sometimes beat 4. In that case, if there's not a walk up, we'll hit the fifth again on beat 4 sometimes in the verse. Cool. And then the chorus is a little more sparse in parts, but not much more. Actually, that time I went boom, 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 or boom, 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 boom. So he actually didn't do what I was doing before. He kept the intro theme going. Okay, boom, 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 boom. He threw a walk up in there going back to the G. This is the bridge, by the way. Did it again. And there's a little bit of walking getting back into the verse, but it's pretty straightforward. Cool. So then the rest of the song is really just another verse, another chorus, and then this little outro part. I think the outro is just the intro groove over 2 different chords. Let's see. Here's the outro. Well, here's the end of the chorus. You wait for the downbeat. Here's the outro. Oh, you did it higher. So I've been doing that part a little bit wrong, and then I've been sliding into them on a different level. Yeah, so Another One Bites the Dust is easy. I already know that one. I might have to remember the, yeah. Or I gotta remember that one part. if I were playing it along with people, I could follow along and do that. But there's one little boom, and then the weird thing about that one is kind of some of the rhythms. If you listen to it a lot and you get it stuck in your head, it's easy to play those rhythms, right? Right. So now you're mentioning Jamiroquai. Even by Queen, there are some songs that have a whole bunch of stuff going on. But I'll check out "Don't Give Hate a Chance" by Jamiroquai. I'm actually not as familiar with that one, so that one might be kind of fun to challenge myself. I know some of their other songs, so I know how difficult the bass lines can be. So there is that. But yeah, I do know that one would be harder. But Another One Bites the Dust. If I were just learning that, I'd probably listen to it a lot to get that rhythm in my head because there's a lot of stuff going on there. If you're really rhythmically inclined, it's easy, like you're saying. But if you're not able to grasp that rhythm and literally had to write it out to get it, then you start realizing that song actually has a very syncopated rhythm. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 1, 2, 3. That part's not syncopated, but the next part is. So and a 1, 2, 3, and a 4, and a 1 and 2 and a. So a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a. So first you just got to get that rhythm in your head, whether you have to count it out or whether you just have to listen to it 1,000 times just to make sure you've got it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 1, 2, 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 1. Apparently, when I count out loud, I can't do it, but you get the idea. 2, 3, 4, and a 1, 2, 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1. So a lot of the song is that. So you just got to get that rhythm down, and then there's the we're gonna get you. Another one bites the dust, right? And then I think it hits a G on the way back in, but once again, my memory doesn't always work perfectly. So I'm going to consult the song and just play along with it and let you know when I mess up. I'll make a face or something. It didn't come in time. Oh, they didn't do that but that time. Oh, they didn't do it that time either. Or that time. So I've been playing it wrong. Had that part right. Okay. So, oh. And I think it does a G on the way in again on that one. Oh, different rhythm though. Okay, let me listen to that again. So I was doing the G syncopated like I did the first time, but this time it doesn't. So yeah, going through this, like I said, I played this one a lot. I just assumed that little those notes were in there every time, and it's really only in there when it's the bass intro. As soon as anyone else starts doing that with him, he drops those extra notes. So da da dun 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 dun. Then again da da dun dun dun. But after that da dun 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 dun, he drops it. Boom 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 boom. No da da, right? Yeah, and so then this part. And that's what is that on the E? Bum 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 to E. I think it's on the E of it may not be beat 2, only thing. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. For E, it's on the E after beat 4. So if you know how to count 16th notes, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E, it's right there. but I'm not gonna try to count and play it at the same time. My brain's really just going in my head, so I'm accenting. I think my foot is padding or something, so I'm having an idea of where the downbeats are, and then my brain's just going kind of keeping track of it. And so then it just knows if it's right before the beat, if it's right after, if it's the one two over from that. It can do that without me having to think 1E end a 2E end a 3E end a 4E end and drive myself crazy. It's just, you know, so it's a little bit easier than that. So hopefully that helps. Is there a song played on the U-bass, like a song made with U-bass, not a cover one? So there are songs made on the U-bass that aren't covers. You know, I don't know if there are popular songs that are like that, but there are people that have written U-bass songs. I think Magnus, that does the Play U-bass site, I think he has a few originals. I have one called Sweet Dreaming, which I technically converted it from guitar, but you know, I used a U-bass on that, so that's technically a U-bass line and not a bass guitar line. I don't think I've ever played it on full scale bass, but I could. I just haven't. So I don't know too many mainstream artists. If Pakiti Kumalo has come up with anything, then he might have some songs that are specifically U-bass, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. But since he's one of the people with a signature model, he might still be Paul Simon's bass player, you know, that was on all the Graceland stuff. He's an awesome bass player, but he really likes the U-bass, so he has a signature model, because why wouldn't they endorse him? He's amazing. And so since he has a signature model, he may have some new songs. Maybe he's done his own projects where he's used it. I'm not sure. I know he uses it live sometimes, but as far as it being on the recorded album, I'm just not sure. Not to my knowledge on that. I was trying to make a playlist of things that people have made where they use U-bass on there. I want to say that I have a playlist on Spotify that I made where I put my song on there and then put other ones on there. I think I just called it, U-bass songs with an exclamation point afterwards. So some of these are originals by people that feature the U-bass, and others, they feature multiple basses. And then I put my song Sweet Dreaming on there too. So yeah, I think if you search U-bass songs, like U-bass and then space and then songs with an exclamation point, that there might be a few that are actually originals that are on there. And Going Camping was done exclusively on a U-bass. I just don't have a quality recording of it yet. But yeah, I mean, yeah, so that I wrote that one on the U-bass, so that one's original too. I've just never done a recorded version other than the YouTube video for that one. So that's an example of one that's for U-bass specifically. But that's this one with well, it wasn't this one. It was actually the one with the round strings, but it was metal strings, not rubber strings. Okay, so then oh, Don't Give Hate a Chance by Jamiroquai. I think I'm gonna regret pulling this up and trying to do this by ear, but we'll see. This is one where I'd probably pull up a YouTube tutorial, so that way at least I can see what they're doing, and maybe they'll play at half speed so that I can just kind of like break it down a little bit easier, because I'm sure there's going to be some ghost notes. I'm sure there's going to be some syncopation. I'm sure some of it's going to be fast just because it's Jamiroquai and they have a really good bass player. So a really funky rhythmic bass player. F sharp. Sounds digital. It doesn't sound like bass guitar yet. Okay. So at first he's doing an octave thing. I'm not going to figure out what that pattern is yet, but he does an F sharp octave thing, and he walks up a minor scale, and then goes up and then comes down. So let me hear the specifics of it. Now I've got like a outline sort of. I have to fast forward through that intro though, so I don't waste so much time. Oh, there's a slide leading into it. Okay, let's see. Let me rewind it a little bit more. Oh, no, there's a slide going into it. Ooh, that's cool. I did it in the wrong part. So sometimes he does the double octave and sometimes he doesn't. So right now I'm just trying to make a mental note and then hoping my memory will remember. So he goes, and then he goes, boom. So he does that here, but not here. Then he does that. And then he does something different there that I got to listen to. See? So he does that, but then he does something after that. That's hard. Yeah, so the thing about this one that makes it hard for me to kind of do on here is just like the memory aspect of it. I have to listen to it over and over again just to get it into my brain. So right now I can tell you, okay, he slides in and he's got that like basic disco pattern where you can double either the low or the high note, but the high note will stand out more. So he's just doing an octave, but then doubling the high note. Only here he doesn't. For whatever reason, he just does a single one there and then does a single one there too. I think he has and then he does this hammer on here. So the reason I'm able to pick these out kind of quickly is because yet again, he's using octaves, he's using walking up a minor scale, which is a very, very common thing. And then he's using that sort of box shape here, which is still kind of the minor pentatonic scale. So, and then he's using a hammer-on here, which hammer-ons are really common within that box shape. So it's not outlandish. It's just the order that he's using them in and using it all back to back that makes it really interesting and kind of hard to remember. But it's like I'm not picking things out completely from scratch because I've heard these sounds before elsewhere. So it makes it a lot easier to break it down, just having heard a lot of songs that are disco that start with octaves that kind of do that. And then I'm trying to think of what that. And then he walks up here somehow, but I got to figure out what he does there still because I haven't heard the song enough. But yeah, it's a pretty cool line. He slides to get to the beginning. So let me try to come in with him and see if I can play it with him. It's not in yet. Okay, so he jumps up there. So that's what I do sometimes too. I cheat. I hum a note. So I cannot, my ear doesn't always pick out ninths. That was a ninth from the chord. Yeah, I know this is kind of obnoxious going deep into the theory, but for my brain, it helps me to kind of like hear it over and over again and then kind of break it down and try to compare it to things I already know. I'm like, oh, it's like this one song. Oh, okay, it has this walk up. Like we just did a song earlier. What was the one? The rhythm stick. That hit me with the rhythm stick. That had a walk up. That was very similar. And so those minor walk ups are just fun. They just have this really cool kind of just driving sound to them. So a lot of songs have that. Another one is Aeroplane by Red Hot Chili Peppers, who I just got to see yesterday. It was awesome seeing Flea live, by the way. So, but that's that same boom, boom, boom. that's in this song. So that boom, 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 boom. My pointer finger is doing the same thing. It's just the pattern around it changes. So another thing you can kind of see by breaking these down is like when a bass player comes up with a bass line, they're not starting from nowhere. They have a toolbox they kind of pull from. So like if they know they want to make the song dancey, they're going to be like, oh, that's going to need some sort of like disco-esque line. Okay, disco uses octaves. Disco a lot of times is busy like that, where it has like the extra note. I'm trying to remember which song it was that I was just listening to that had some of that literal same octave pattern. So he didn't invent the pattern. He's moving it around the chord changes and then kind of using them in a specific order. So the more bass lines you listen to, the more you'll hear these things. And then when you listen to something new, you can kind of just go, oh, it's like this other song. And that way, if you're on the spot, and let's say it's a song where the bass line starts, if you're like just clueless, like I remember it's these notes, but I don't remember the rhythm at all, which is what happens to me all the time. It helps for me to have this like mental cue of this song starts with a very similar rhythm to this other song. And if I have that, then in a very similar tempo, then I can kind of get into the groove before I start, kind of bob my head and go, okay, it's this tempo, it's this feel. And then I can remember how those notes fit into that rhythm, if that makes sense. So that's how my brain works. Everybody's brain's different, but using familiarity kind of helps there. Do you want me to keep going on this song, or do you want to introduce a new one? Because this one's just one where it's like, I could do that. I could really just enjoy picking that out, you know, and spending time kind of just working on my ear, just practicing, picking things out and seeing if I can hear it before I play it and checking to see if I was right. It's fun, you know, for me. But we could also talk about different songs. Like I might approach them differently. If I had to play this last minute, I would probably focus more on the chord progression, you know, and then know that he's doing that kind of disco thing and just kind of feel out when it breaks from that and when it goes back to that. So that might be what I do there. And then I can make a line that feels similar to it without having to be as difficult. So very, very good song. I like that one. I don't know why I'd never learned it before, but very good request. So just let me know what you guys would like. It's also kind of getting later, so if we do one more, the next one will probably be the last one. So let me know what you like. I'm just gonna play along with this until I see a comment on the YouTube chat box. So I'll just keep going with this one until I see something. Maybe those aren't the right notes at the end. Dun, dun, dun. I think it's that note. I'm hearing, I think. Let's see. Same pattern, just moved up from, instead of B, it's on a D now. I think it just walked like that back down to the original. It might have been more rhythmic than that though. Yeah, I think he doubled some of them. So far I've got the gist of the outline now, and I'm just kind of applying the rhythm to it. So I forgot if there was a note in between there or not. Rhythmically, that doesn't add up, so I must be missing something. to the walk down. Let's see. It goes back to D before ourselves. He might be just sliding down there. That might be why. Yeah, so Seth, to answer your question, yes, I've played Going Straight to Hell plenty of times. That one, the cool thing about that band, I have a Driving and Crying story. So there was one time I played a gig with somebody and we were opening for them. And we played right before them. There was nobody there when we played, of course, and then everybody showed up. It was in downtown Woodstock, Georgia. And so a whole bunch of people just said, "Oh, Karen, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you've gained a little from that, from hearing how I organize learning songs, or don't organize and just go with the flow, whatever it is." Then they were playing down in Woodstock, and after we were done, they had a big crowd. We didn't, and the bass amp wasn't working. So their bass player had to borrow my bass amp to play the gig. And he was very appreciative at the end of their set. He was like, "Thank you so much for doing that." And the drummer comes up to me and he's like, "You need to get a rig like his. You know, yours was so small and wimpy sounding and blah, blah, blah." And it's just like, sounded good out front because they had it running through the mains, but he just was not happy with it. And it's kind of like, yeah, but mine was working. You know, like I know his amp was better. Of course his amp is better. It better be. And, you know, that group. But because it was a tube amp, something happened to it and it wasn't working, and mine was solid state. So it's kind of like, it was just kind of interesting because the bass player and everybody else in the band were super appreciative of that, but the drummer had an opinion, and I get it. You got to be able to hear it and feel it, and so he likes being able to hear and feel the actual cabinet and not just whatever the sound people were throwing in there. But I just thought that was kind of funny. Anyway, but they had a great show. It was good to hear them and open for them, so it was kind of cool. So yes, I kind of do know that one. I'm pretty sure it's just mostly root fifth line, very country sounding kind of bass line. So I'll just kind of go to that. I know leaving Jamiroquai to go to that's kind of a weird thing to do. That's a fun Jamiroquai song. I'll probably have to learn that one in full at some point. Let's see. There it is. Okay, so when I play this one, I literally play it just, you know, very straight country with a couple walk-ups. And then I just go back. I didn't think there was a walk down there, but there was. It was dun 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 boom, and there was like a ghost note there, dun 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 boom. So it might have been a ghosted E note. I'm not sure. I'm not sure which note it was, but something like that. So he was going boom, 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 boom. I think he slid into it. Boom, 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 boom. And then the second time, he's going 5-1, you know, fifth root, fifth root, fifth root on that little chromatic line, which is just that normal chromatic line that I was doing already. He's just approaching each note with the fifth before it, which is kind of cool. So he's kind of adding more notes. So it's kind of a busy country line, a little bit more percussive than just sticking to the roots. So every time I've played it, I just literally played the reduction of that line, not playing all those little, not worrying about all those little intricate details, Because usually when it's on a set list, there are other songs on the set list that really it'll affect more having specifics about the song than those. Because those specifics, they're kind of buried in the, they can be buried in the mix, you know? If you play, it sounds virtually the same to the audience. As long as you're hitting those roots and fifths and everything in the right spot and doing some walk ups to give it some momentum, I don't think the rest really is like essential. It's just the bass player's personality. So it's cool as a bass player to hear what they're doing and to hear that, okay, it's not quite as boring as my brain told me it was, or as my first listen told me it was. If I listen closer, then I hear that. So I might have learned it from listening on the radio where there wasn't a good bass thing and just going, oh, these are the chords. Oh, there's a little bit of walk-ups going on there, but not hearing the detail of that. So now I can go back and fill in the detail and be like, ah, okay, those bass players were doing some subtle things that were kind of fun. They're not, it's not super crazy. It's still a country line. They want to keep it simple and not detract from the rest of the song. But they want to make it a little bit more interesting so that if they have to play it night after night, it's not dull to them, that kind of thing. You've seen them live a bunch of times. Most high profile was them opening for The Who. Oh, that's cool if they got to open for The Who. That's really awesome. Yes, the interesting thing about Driving and Crying is their singer, Kevin Kinney, he's local. I mean, they're all local, I guess, but you'll see him out and about sometimes. Like there have been times where I was going to a car shop or going somewhere and you just see him walking across the street, just hanging out, just going to the same guitar shop. Maybe I can't even remember, but I remember seeing him a couple times just like that. And seems like he'd probably be a pretty down to earth dude. I've never had a conversation with him, but yeah, it's just kind of interesting. So if you're around Atlanta, sometimes you might spot him at places. But yeah, that about wraps it up for me. I hope you guys have enjoyed hanging out here and just learning kind of the process I learn songs. Everybody's got a different way of doing it. So this may not be the way to learn for everybody, but to me, what works best is if I have to learn a lot of songs at once, it's get the general skeleton of the song and provide my own fills based on just listening to it and getting the general vibe of the song. If it's a song that I specifically want to learn note for note because I feel like it's a really fun bass line or really essential to the song to play the bass line correctly, like what's it called? Ain't No Mountain High Enough is one of those that you know, knowing those things. But even on the chorus, I kind of took one way of doing it and then kind of repeat it over and over again, adding my own variations sometimes rather than the ones that are in the original. But I learned the song more in depth, but still left a little bit of room for me to kind of add my own interpretation in certain spots. But yeah, so that's what works for me. For some people, it works better to just learn every line note for note and literally go find tabs from somebody that spent an excruciating amount of time getting the detail right. What you'll notice about that, though, is pretty much every time there's always going to be a mistake somewhere or some subtlety that was left out somewhere. So you can be that, and the more you're like that, the more ready you are for a tribute band. So if you're going to play in a tribute band, they're going to pay a lot more attention to details than your average cover band would, or your average wedding band might even. Although wedding bands do pay a lot of attention to detail. It's kind of like the order would go like in general. Some bar bands are really attention to detail people too, but in general, bar bands do less attention to detail. Corporate and wedding bands give a lot of attention to detail. But if you're in a tribute band for a specific artist, you have to give the utmost amount because people are there to hear the band. So the most you can sound like the band, the better. And that's it. And like Seth said, sometimes it's better to make the song your own. If the drummer is not playing it exactly right, but you're playing the bass line exactly right, it might sound terrible because their groove might not fit with what you're playing. So letting the ego go that they didn't, you know, spend as much time on their homework or whatever, and just serving the song that you're given, knowing that it's slightly different, is more important, I would say, than playing the bass line 100% correct. So know when to do that, know when not to, know which drummers are going to be exactly like the record and which ones are going to be a little bit looser, giving you a little bit more freedom, and enjoy the freedom of adding notes and putting your own spin on the thing. But different gigs will have totally different outlooks for each song. All right. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. Once again, I have a Patreon. Right now, I'm working on a beginner course. We're up through part 4 of the course, which is really just tuning. It's a slow-moving course at first, but it'll start picking up very soon. The next lesson is going to have to be on reading tablature. So if you're already there, want to kind of join in after that. But then it'll be warm-up exercises, arpeggios, scales, probably in the reverse order, probably scales first, then how to form bass lines out of those things. So all that stuff's to come on that. And the Patreon will be where you can get the PDF version of the course. The videos will be free on here. And that's really about it. If anybody's interested, I do teach private lessons on Zoom and Skype. So information for that is on most of my channel's main videos. I know it's not on this one's description, but most of the time, but it's just Stephen Cox Music instead of bass. StephenCoxMusic.com/Skype is how you can get there. And just let me know if you'd like to take some in-person lessons. You can join the Patreon, or you can just enjoy the free stuff that's coming out. Right now, it's every other week. All right, guys, have a good one. I will see you next time.